I am interested in acquiring hatching eggs from a breeder. Do you want to know one question that I personally will never ask them? Are your birds SOP? Are your chicks SOP? And in my opinion, if somebody is telling you that their birds are SOP, or especially that their chicks or hatching egg are SOP, it's a red flag. In my experience, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. I don't need to ask you if your birds are SOP because I can look at your parent stock, I can look at the offspring that your birds have produced, and I can get an idea about what you're working with breeding-wise. And the reality is, I can be mindful about the standards of perfection in all of my breedings, but still, SOP is not an exact science. It's something that we work for. And I can be mindful of the standards, but most of the offspring that I produce are not going to meet that standard. And in fact, I mean, ideally, we start with the best birds possible. Sometimes one bird who is far from SOP for some reasons, complemented by the right breeding partner, may produce really beautiful offspring. The right questions are things like, what are some strengths that you see in your flocks? What are some of your favorite things about the birds that you're working with? What are some of the things that you're working on and would like to see different? How long have you been working with and breeding down your lines? Those to me are important questions. Are your birds SOP to me feels like an inexperienced question. And I don't mean to be mean, I'm just letting you know that because when I hear that from somebody, honestly, it makes me a little hesitant to want to sell them hatching eggs because I know and understand that if I were to buy eggs from somebody who actually shows their birds, from somebody whose birds have actually won ribbons at shows, and from somebody who breeds from those birds who won ribbons at shows, okay? And like as though they would even offer the eggs, because probably they're going to be hatching those eggs out to replenish their own flocks and like do more exhibition stuff. But anyways, even if somebody was selling those eggs, right, I know that out of 100 chicks hatched from those eggs, maybe 1 or 2 of those birds is going to be a picture of the standard of perfection, right? Like that's just the way it works out. So with somebody who out the gate asked me the questions, are your birds SOP? I'm like, oh shit, like am I even going to be able to please this person? Like is this person going to be pleased with anything that they hatch out of my eggs? Because I know how it goes with hatching and how many birds we hatch before we have 1 or 2 that we really feel proud of, right? I mean, look, I'm proud. I love my birds. I have some beautiful birds and I am mindful of standards of perfection, but there are always things that pop up. And when we're hatching and purchasing hatching eggs and hatching from our own flock, we need to be mindful of that. And we need to keep space for those imperfections. Really, if we want birds that represent standards of perfection, then what we need to do is start with the best possible stock. And then we need to create those birds ourselves. We need to start with the best possible stock, and then we need to breed for a couple of years and work down within our own lines. That really is the best way to work towards standard of perfection, is to just do it yourself. And I say that with like respect. I don't mean to be rude, but like really, that is the way to do it, because then you know what you're working with, and then you can make the choices to work towards the standard as you have learned and interpret it.